Oh, yes, it is the DPB Show here, 4 o'clock on Thursday. Thank you for joining me. And I've got to make sure that I'm cognizant today to be staring at the camera. As you can tell from Tuesday's show, if you're just joining, um, I've got a new setup here. I've got a new mic in front of me. I'm not working off of my laptop. It's all coming together at the DPB Show, as I knew it would. God has never failed me yet. Thank you for joining me today. The American people are upset. That wasn't necessarily how the thumbnail looks, but they're upset. In fact, I think my thumbnail says they're pissed off, and I have to agree. I'm not one for a lot of colorful metaphors and colorful language. It's just not part of who I am. But truly, people are upset. I was on Twitter last night reading through the thousands and thousands of comments that were put forth utilizing the trending word was Donald Trump. People are losing their minds on our side of the aisle, not knowing what to do. They are very confused about what the next steps are. Of course, you have some of the nominees for president making the statement that, one in particular, Ron DeSantis says that we'll let the Supreme Court handle it. A lot of the establishment Republicans are saying the same thing. This will be decided in the Supreme Court. Um, I don't think we have that kind of time. Um, these, hold on, let me fix this. This was bothering me. Um, we don't have that kind of time. We can't wait for the Supreme Court. The Literally, we are days away from the Iowa caucuses, and the Republicans' response is not to pounce, even though we hear a lot about the Republicans pouncing. The Republican response is wait, delay. Let's be civil about this. Well, let me tell you, the Democrat side of the aisle, specifically the progressive liberalism that permeates the Democrat Party these days, uh, they don't care about the law. They really don't. They go to great lengths every day to rewrite what our Constitution says. In fact, I think that if you query most of them, bear with me, I forgot to do one thing before I started the show. I forgot to spit my gum out. How rude of me. So bear with me. Um, they go to great lengths every day to circumvent, to rewrite, to redefine the Constitution of the United States. So imagine this for today's show. Um, right here in my hands, as you can see, is my pocket Constitution. Now, this was a new one that was given to me on my 60th birthday. The other one was a little tattered. It happened to be the one that I was gifted through the Darren Bailey for Governor campaign. And I want to talk a little bit about Darren today. I had the opportunity to talk to him earlier this afternoon. I always enjoy my conversations with him. It was unexpected. Um, it's fascinating. And before I get into that, I'll cover that about Darren. But let me get to back to the Constitution, because I think it's so important that we realize that the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, was written for the reason of what we are experiencing right now, right here, right now. Basically, in the context of the Constitution, we have, the Declaration of Independence, which is at the back. I'm sorry, I'm thumbing through it because it is my new constitutional or pocket constitution. But you don't have to go too far into it to realize that this is where we are. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them to it with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station of which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind, requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths. to be self-evident that all men, all meaning all, are equal, are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator in, with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. The consent of the governed, you and me, we are the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government, hear me out, any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Folks, that's where we're at today. In light of what took place in Colorado, when 4 activist judges decided to take the law and bastardize it, I once again, I think I can say bastardize because that's what they've done. They have taken the 14th Amendment and they have utilized the 14th Amendment to expel President Donald J. Trump from the ballot for the primary and, of course, meaning the general election. And the response of the Republican Party is to let the Supreme Court handle it. Now, I'm pretty certain that the Supreme Court will rule. I don't want to sit around and wait for them to rule. Bear with me today. I'm going to try to push through this show. I can't believe it. Right here before Christmas, I ended up with a little stuff in my chest. It's kind of moving, migrating to the head a little bit, but we're going to get through the show. I got my cup of coffee over here. Give peace a chance. Truly, the only peace that will ever exist on this earth comes from Jesus Christ. He is the Prince of Peace, which is what we will be celebrating Christmas Eve. In fact, if you're in the area of Central Illinois, specifically Bloomington Normal, and are looking for a place to worship on Sunday, 10 a.m. at the Tabernacle on West Hovey, 10 a.m. candlelight service, West Hovey, the Tabernacle. You can come out and see yours truly. I'm praying that my voice will be there come Sunday. I think there was a Brady Bunch where Carol, mom of the Brady Bunch, lost her voice prior to a very special recital, and I think it could have been Christmas. And yours truly is kind of battling that same thing. I have something in common with the Partridge Family, or not Partridge Family. That's another Partridge. Maybe I'm really mixing up the Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family. I think it was the Partridge Family, not the Brady Bunch. See, you know what generation I grew up in, right? When I'm making references to both the Partridge Family and Brady Bunch. But anyhow, I hope my voice is in rare form, because if you do come out on Sunday to the candlelight service at 10 a.m. On West Hovey, you can hear yours truly singing the beautiful Christmas carols of days gone by that still resonate in today's time. I have a special person who will be joining me on stage for the candlelight service, and that would be none other than my daughter, Hannah Blumenshine. She's coming in from Nashville, Tennessee, and she's been away from the microphone. I know that she loves to sing, and she's probably been doing that like most of us. You know, we sing around the house. We sing, you know, a new song every time we get it in our head. My daughter's very musically inclined, and therefore I know that she's probably worked on her pipes a little bit, but she's actually going to come back on stage and sing with me. So I guess the pressure is really kind of off, that if I'm just lip syncing, that's okay because Hannah will carry the show. But you can see, you can participate in that. We'd love to have you join us. That is Sunday. If you're in the area of Central Illinois, specifically the Bloomington Normal area, the Tabernacle on West Hovey. Uh, Love to see you there for our candlelight service. Pastor Timothy James Farrell is wrapping up this unbelievable series. I encourage you to go out to the Tabernacle TV, and watch any of the devotions. It's on the Facebook page. The series is entitled Israel, Ishmael, and Emmanuel. I've never heard of a pastor preach on Ishmael, and that message was just preached the last Sunday. So if you want to, if you're interested, I should say, in hearing that message, definitely go out there. But I digressed a little bit. I kind of took us on a long journey, but I want to get to the 14th Amendment because I think it's very important that we understand what exactly this court and this movement, the progressive liberal Marxist movement, what they're banking on, right? They are literally trying to pivot off of an amendment that states as follows. I'm a page away. Sorry. It's a new, did I mention this is my new constitution? And here we go. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law, or deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Section 2 basically says representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed, but when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors or for president and vice president of the United States, representatives in Congress, the executive and judicial officers of the state, or the members of the legislature thereof is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state, being 21 years of age and citizens of the United States, or in any abridged except or for participation in rebellion or other crime, the basis of representation therein shall be reduced in the portion which the number of such male citizens shall bear to the whole number of male citizens 21 years of age in such state. Stay with me. I know that it might be you're saying, but DPB, I can read the Constitution on my own. I want to get this out there because when you read the language of the 14th Amendment and what they're basing this on, it is fascinating. Section 3 goes on to state uh, that no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress for elector of president or vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. I'm not going to bore you with Section 4. You can read that on your own, Section 5. Section 3 and Section 2 defining Section 1, or Section 1 defining kind of the layout. We go to the insurrection clause or rebellion. They claim in the Activist Court of Colorado that President Donald J. Trump incited an insurrection. There has never been a charge brought against President Donald J. Trump, not even Jack Smith, the prosecutor, has ever brought charges against Trump for insurrection. Never has been charged with insurrection, but yet he has now been found that he must have committed in an insurrection or incited an insurrection because he was removed from the ballot for said crime. This, in of itself, is why the American people are losing it, and why I think the response on the Republican side of the aisle is lax, and it needs to be amped up. Um, when I say amped up, it means we need to fight fire with fire. We need to start doing what they do to us. Um, it's unfortunate that civil obedience isn't what we're going to have in this country going forward into 2024. Um, it's going to be civil disobedience. And when I say civil disobedience, I'm not calling for violence. There's enough political violence going on already. Basically, what we see happening in our country under a weaponized DOJ, weaponized FBI, a weaponized executive branch against a political opponent is beyond the Constitution of the United States of America. They can try to gloss over it. They can try to redefine it. They can try to say that in the context of the 14th Amendment, it actually states that they can indeed remove someone, for a candidate for president. In fact, the front running nominee of the Republican Party is being removed. Now, I do believe if we have time, which we don't, that will be reestablished. Donald Trump will be on the ballot for the primary in Colorado. I don't have off the top of my head, and I can look that up here shortly. What the exact, in fact, why don't one of you, uh, if one of you who is listening could go ahead and put up the date that the primary is going to happen in Colorado. That saves me of doing it. I probably should have done that before the show. But as you can see, once again, uh, just a little promo to Paul Garcia. That's Paul Garcia Productions. He is the one who set up. This looks a little different than it did on Tuesday. I'm looking forward to it, and obviously continuing to look at the camera, staying hydrated because the voice is getting a little worn already into the show. We're not even 20 minutes in. I'm going to pop a throat lozenge in uh, because it's tough. I've never had to do a show in 3 years of being on the radio and going live on the different social media platforms where I've had a raspy throat. So there's a first for everything. However, I know God is already ahead of me on the show. He's at the end of the show. He's arrived, and he's just asking me to be faithful, obedient, and just to walk this out, which is what I'm going to ask you guys to do today as we continue to cover the ground of why it is that the American people are pissed off. As my beautiful wife says, pissed off is a good description. Yes. That would not be yours truly. That it would be this person down here, the cat Peterson. Let's take Joe off the ballot. She also says, but state rights libertarians are dumb. The 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 American people deserve better. We deserve better. We the people. And it's look at my wife is so good about this. Um Colorado primary is presidential preference primary is March 5th. Wait a second, statewide election dates. Let me blow this up a little bit more. We're March 19th. In fact, I'm still in preparation right now, I should say, working on getting my delegate petition signed by many of you. Thank you very much for all of you that have been willing to sign the delegate petition for the 17th Congressional District. We're still looking for additional signatures, so if you would like, by all means, reach out to me via social media, whether that be Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, X, or Facebook. The primary is June 25th. Uh, It says presidential preference primary is March 5th. You know, something I've learned uh, being involved politically is because we are a federalist type of government, all states have different parameters when it comes to their elections, whether that would be the actual time period between when votes can be counted, which like you and so many of you, I believe we should have voting day, election day with ID. Um, that's the way it should be. Vote by mail should be something that is rare for those who need to take advantage of vote by mail, whether they're overseas due to serving our country or it's somebody who is unable to get to the polls. Nursing homes being one of them. That's a place that uh, I know that vote by mail is something that is looked forward to. Unfortunately, it's an area where we've had a lot of corruption uh, and anomalies coming out of nursing home facilities. But anyhow, each state defines the parameters about what they will do in their electoral process, knowing that June 25th is the primary, March 5th being the presidential preference primary. Uh, we have time to get Trump back on the ballot in Colorado. Unfortunately, as I just said a little bit ago, Iowa is here, right now. I mean, we are days away from the primary or the caucus, different than a primary, a caucus in Iowa. That's what kicks it off. And this has already happened. And they're talking about this going on in Maine, California, and you're going to see many other states who are favorable to the Democrat Party, the socialist progressive agenda, moving to have Trump removed from the ballot. I also believe you're going to see, and this is what I was referring to, where we, the people, have to step up and take initiative to fight back. And yes, I did say it, fight back. Now, I get it. There's a lot of people say that word fight. Trump used fight. Well, so do the Democrats. Uh, I've got a montage, which I wish I could play it, but it's about 20 minutes long. Actually, it's about 15 minutes long. 20 minutes might be a little exaggeration, but 15 minutes long of Democrats. Um, and it's many of the Democrats, all the way from the top office of Obama to Biden to congressional leaders to Senate leaders using the word fight. But we need to fight back. And we need to call our state representatives, whether that would be here in Illinois or throughout the land, the United States of America. We need to call our representatives and let them know that we want to bring uh, charges against Joe Biden. And what we can pivot on is what I read earlier in the 14th Amendment. We can pivot on the fact that Joe Biden has kept an open border since pretty much day one. And that, I believe, is giving aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. An open border is not secure. We don't know who's coming across the border, and neither does the Biden administration. Also, I think there's enough information out there, and the list is long. I'm not going to read through it. I leave that up to people like Dan Bongino. He'll give you every detail about all the instances there are of President Biden. Uh, and the list is long when they say, well, there's no evidence. Lindsey Graham gets on one of the weekend shows and says he doesn't believe there's anything that really implicates. Uh, no cough button. I'm sorry. I had it. I knew I was going to do it during the show, but there's no verifiable instance or evidence that shows that Joe Biden is a foreign actor, a foreign agent. And obviously, we don't mean foreign agent in the sense of 007. We mean foreign agent based on having business dealings indirectly or directly with foreign adversaries and benefiting from that. That's what we're talking about. And that's what we can do. We, the people, can do. We could actually bring charges against Biden in different states like Texas. I know Dan Patrick, the attorney general down there, is considering it. It was rumored he was going to do it today. But the state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, if you really want to show the American people that you're ready to step up and lead this nation, then by all means, you need to lead on this particular issue. Because as much as I understand that right now your polling numbers don't reflect it, your leadership can reflect it. You can make a difference on this one particular issue. Your response of blame or of shifting responsibility to the Supreme Court, I get it. The Supreme Court is within the parameters of the judicial process that handles things like this. But Ron, if I were on your campaign and giving you advice, I would tell you that we don't have that kind of time. It's now, days away from the Iowa caucus. If you want to lead, be like Vivek. Vivek is truly leading on this issue. He has stepped up. He said, if Trump's name isn't on the ballot, then my name will not be on the ballot. That's leadership, and that's admirable. I can admire a person who's willing to say, yes, the cause is greater. It's not about any one individual. It's not about President Trump. It's about the future of our country. The future of our children and our grandchildren is at stake. And we're seeing that mapped out right in front of our very eyes. You know, I brought in a message that Tim Farrell at the Tabernacle did a few weeks ago. And he was talking about the different indicators of what we're seeing in society today. And I think that that's playing out. I mean, so many things that are transpiring, like what we're seeing in Colorado, they're transpiring everywhere throughout our land, not just in your state, but in my state. And we've got to do something about it. And we can't continue to think that the Democrats are going to stop doing what they're doing. They're never going to stop. I love quoting my wife when she says that. She says, they're never going to stop. When people are committed to money and power over a mission, you know, the Constitution of our United States and our constitutional republic defines a mission, a movement. And what most people are defining now is money and power. And we need to be diligent like never before going forward to make sure that we are missional, that we're more concerned about the movement of what's happening here in the United States, because it's getting real. And I think you sense it, and I think many people sense that. The Democrats, the socialist progressive movement, they don't care about the law. They sure don't care about America, the constitutional republic. In fact, most of them refer to our form of government as a democracy. And it's not a democracy. It's a form of democracy, but it's not a democracy. It is a representative form of government, a constitutional republic. It's what Ben Franklin said upon leaving Independence Hall. We've given you a republic. if you can keep it. So getting back to 25 indicators of times like these. The indicator number 1 is terrible times. The word terrible, word terrible is terror. We're seeing a lot of terror. Obviously, that's taking place in the Middle East, but it's taking place everywhere throughout the world. Terror is something that is indicative of a time that we live in. Some people say, are we living in the last days? I always believe that we are at any moment, and I don't know when that's going to be. God only knows. Not even Jesus himself knows when that time is or that day. But terror is part of our modern times and has been for many years. I heard my friend Kat Peterson covering that this morning on her Morning Buzz show. Uh, she was talking about JFK. And really, if you were to go back in time and pinpoint when things really got off the rails, when we started to see the influence of the deep state, an organized movement to transform the world, it probably would have been around that period of time because JFK himself, although he was a Democrat, he was a populist. I mean, that particular quote of his is do not ask. Don't ask what the country can do for you. Ask what you can do for the country. In fact, I'm going to put that up on my Facebook page, that quote in of itself, because that's where we find ourselves in this time that we're confronted with things like terror. Moving on, it's a people who loves themselves. We see that. Lovers of money, boastful of themselves, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure, and religious. You know, that's something I believe that I heard yesterday, and I don't know where it was that I heard it, but liberalism is a religion. It has become their religion. When you look at climate change and you look at all of the areas that the socialist movement has poured themselves into, or the liberal movement has poured themselves into, it is a religion. It's what they live by. Now, I truly believe that liberalism is a form of mental illness. And when somebody said, really, that seems a little harsh. Most of there are liberals who I think are somewhat levelized, but too many liberals right now are obsessed. Why? What are they obsessed with? They're obsessed with keeping Trump off the ballot. I mean, that in of itself is mind-boggling. That here in the United States of America, we could have the front-running presidential nominee removed from the ballot. If we were to talk about election interference, that is quintessentially the definition of election interference, making sure that you remove your opponent from the ballot. You know, I'd mentioned this, and I heard Kat also mention it on her show this morning at the Morning Buzz, and you can catch her morning in the mornings at Cities 92.9 out of Bloomington Normal. But I heard her mention it. She said, I called it. And I know she did. I called it too. I told her this. I don't know if there's going to be election. And at the rate that states are trying to remove candidates from the ballot, specifically President Trump, there wouldn't be an election because it isn't an election unless the people have a choice. What you have there is strictly a banana republic where choices are limited to one or two, and in most cases, just one choice for the leader. And I think that that's kind of something that we will face going into 2024. There's a real possibility. I don't believe it's conspiratorial. I mean, they're setting the stage. The stage is setting, is being set. Most everything they do is calculated in political theater. They have walked this out for a very long time. It's and it started as soon as Trump announced that he was running for reelection. I think it actually started uh, when they were planning out how to flood the zone for the 2020 election. And believe me, they flooded the zone. They used every tool in their toolbox, whether it would be information suppression through technology and the internet to the vote by mail. And I want to lead into this because I think this is a good place to step off. Excuse me. I'm going to get through the show. I promise you. I know I sound a little nasally, but I hope I sound a little better today with the microphone working, the fancy camera. It's only going to get better. I'm going to decorate the backdrop back here so it's not so stale looking, so sterile looking. It looks like I'm in a bunker. And it's because I am. I'm in a secured facility, which gives me confidence that I can continue to air in the content that I'm airing without disruption. I'm thankful to the people who've afforded me the opportunity to be here to do this. So thank you. We're going to get through the show. But as I was saying, this is a good place to step off back to my friend Darren Bailey. Darren is an amazing human being. Um, in fact, you can see, let me tip my head down. I have one of my favorite Darren Bailey hats on today. I wear this hat often. It is one of my favorite ones because it was my first hat. Um, and and Darren called me today and around the lunchtime, and he was just checking in, seeing how I was doing. And he, unbeknownst to him, I hadn't filled him in on the DPB show and the new formats and what we're doing here. And he was just so complimentary. And he said, "You can do this." He gets it. He gets it because he just returned from Mar-a-Lago. He had that opportunity to have an intimate conversation with Donald J. Trump about the state of our country, the state of his race with Mike Bost, a career politician who is being supported, as in most cases when it comes to the Republican Party. They unify around establishment candidates. Somebody like Darren Bailey, they're not going to unify around. Why? Because Darren Bailey's not going to be part of the uniparty, the swamp. He's going to be there on behalf of the people that he sees day in, day out at all of the stops he's making through the 12th Congressional District of Illinois, who are truly suffering. I see that. The other day, I was passing an individual, and you could just tell this person is really struggling with where life has them at this moment. And we know that people were struggling long before Joe Biden. As I said earlier, I think the descent has been going on since the 60s in our country. I do believe it got better for a brief period of time under Reagan and under Trump. It didn't become perfect because that's what the Constitution says. We are constantly striving to form a more perfect union. That is what I think we should strive for. But I know many people are suffering. This particular individual I saw, right there before my eyes, struggling with what we currently know as the Bidenomics, the Biden economy. And contrary to so many people who are professing via the open mic or the TV station that you might tune into, um, that things aren't really that bad, that things are actually returning to a better way of life. And that's nothing that is so far from the truth. And we know that we're not going to hear the truth when we turn to sources like that. But getting back to Darren Bailey, Darren called me out of the blue and he was just checking in to see how I was doing. He's got plenty to do. Obviously, every time he's run for office, whether that would have been state representative, state senator, um, governor, he has taken on the establishment of the Republican Party, which can be as difficult as taking on the Democrat side of it. In fact, Darren shared with me now that he's had some time out in DC, um, that he would rather run against J.B. Pritzker than run against the Republican Party uh, of DC. He said it's so much darker. And we know this, right? We're seeing it before our very eyes. You haven't seen a public outcry. Now, I'm not taking anything away from the few individuals on Capitol Hill who represent the people, who are truly standing up and saying that this has gone too far. And they are a voice. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be gaining ground. But Darren Bailey is somebody who is going to fight for the people. And so it was good to talk to Darren. I was grateful here before Christmas that Darren found the time amongst making all of the fundraising calls, and, a little shout out to him. Please, if you want to help a true representative of the people, somebody that has you and me in the core of his being, go out to Bailey for Illinois and give him $1 or $2 or $3. Um, everything, every little bit helps. He's taking on the machine, and I'm not talking about the Democrat machine of Chicago, which is a formidable force in of itself. But he's taking on the Washington machine, which is not just the Republican Party. It is the Uni Party. And that brings us back to Lindsey Graham, who can sit there on TV and make a statement that he doesn't believe there's evidence to implicate Joe Biden as a foreign agent. I don't know. Yes, Kat, I'm going to try to cut it off at about an hour. We're at 17 minutes. Kat says, nice setup. That all is because of you and Paul Garcia. I've got some cool lights. I should try to turn the camera to take a peek at those. It has really changed the look of my little bunker here. I don't want to refer to it as a bunker because I sound too much like Mark Levin. Mark Levin. And but I think it's important that we continue to advance the cause with people like Darren Bailey. And there are others. They're few and far between, and it's unfortunate, which gets back to why it's so imperative that we, the people, that's how this starts off. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, that's what we need to be about. We need to be about forming a more perfect union. And we can demonstrate that by immediately moving in as many states as possible to bring charges against Joe Biden and getting him off of the ballot. I believe, that fighting fire with fire, fighting lawfare with lawfare is critical at this state that we find ourselves. We're at the end of 2023, heading into what I believe is the last election. It's the last election that will truly define, are we going to go forward as a constitutional republic? Or are we going to slide into some other form of government? Our rights are at stake. The future of our children are at stake. The future of our grandchildren is at stake. We have to be prepared. We need to put on the armor. And I'm talking about the armor of Christ. And we need to be prepared for battle. And as I shared with you on Tuesday, I'm not a prepper. That's not who I am. However, I've made accommodations to prepare because I think it's better to be prepared. No different than this season of light, preparing the way. It's better to be prepared and not need the supplies than to not be prepared and having those supplies not available. I'd rather throw the supplies away. I'd rather let them expire, whether that's emergency food, whether that's water sources, whether that's anything that you need to prepare. And once again, there's plenty of sources out there that tell you the 1, 2, 3s, the basics of preparing in crisis. And I believe that we're going to see crisis. I do believe that the best days are yet to come, but I believe the worst days are yet to come. And we're going to see that through the primaries and the general election of 2024. Unfortunately, these indicators that I read off to you, where we're dealing with terrorism and money and boastful and proud people, abusive, physically and verbal, disobedient, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of good, not lovers of the Prince of Peace. That's what we face going into 2024. I hope that you're prepared. Once again, I think the key to this going forward with the DPB show is to make sure that I'm giving you a message of hope, but I'm giving you the truth. Because the hope comes in what lies beyond this world, not what lies in this world. I think we get too captivated about what is happening here and now on this planet. This is a mere vapor, a mere mist. What really matters is our eternal destination and where we go once we are no longer here on earth. That's where I want to invest my time. That's where I want to invest my time, talent, and treasures. And I know that I can weave the faith that I have and that has been given to me through the power of the Holy Spirit and dwells deep in my heart. I know I can share that and weave that into where we are in current events. Because it's easy to be captivated by all the players in the scenarios that are going on. But at the end of the day, we understand there is good and there is evil. There is right and there is wrong. There are moral imperatives. There is a code of conduct in life. There are consequences for bad actions and bad actors. Unfortunately, we have grown so far from that because we have turned away from God. And until we start that process of moving our country, one nation under God, back to God, we're going to see all of those things that indicate we are in the last days. And who knows? Maybe we are. And if we are, glory be to God. Because ultimately, my eternal destination is in heaven. I hope that is for you too. Um, I'm up against the end of the show. I do appreciate everyone who has joined us today. Please go out and like and share and subscribe and follow. Um, I promise you next Tuesday, that's the day after Christmas, I will be back here live. Um, I will get a little rest. I will work on being hydrated. So hopefully, Lord willing, I am in better form. But I encourage you to come out if you're available and you live in the area, but just not here. Make sure that you take time and go and worship and be there with your family. What is most important is God, family, then country. Country's number 3. Some people say hard work. Either one. This is a time to put country where its rightful place is, behind God and family, and focus and celebrate Emmanuel, God with us. It is the most wonderful time of the year, as the song says. Go out and enjoy your family. Uh, make this the best Christmas ever. I know it is going to be for me. I can see that already, and I'm thankful that God has prepared the way, and He has prepared our hearts and our minds to celebrate. And if you're somebody that's tuning in and that's not necessarily where you find yourself, put something in the chat. Reach out to me via Messenger on Facebook or on Twitter or any of the social media platforms and let me know. I would love to pray for you. My wife and I love to pray out loud for people, more so my wife than me. Uh, that's why I'm thankful that God has given me a wife who prays out loud. And I love to join her in prayer. And I'd like to pray for you if you find yourself today in a tough spot during this season, because I know not everybody is going into this season um, with the perspective of hope. Let me pray for you, and I know that prayer does work. That it is what sustains us. All right, we the people, we are upset, or as Kat was willing to do for me, creating my thumbnail, we are pissed off. Um, what can we do about it? We, the people, can do everything about it. But it takes us actively engaging in the process of governing. I know that that very few people usually do that, but I think we need to encourage others to do it always. I encourage you to continue to tune in here at the DPB Show, holding up my peace mug. I wish you peace, the peace that surpasses all understanding. Go out and live and be the light of Christmas to the dark world. Carry your peace wherever you go. The peace of Christ be with you, your family. Until we meet again, I love you and I wish you peace.